Hi and welcome back to our channel. Here on our Mediterranean homestead we are no strangers to hot summer days, but this year we've been issued weather warnings for extreme heat waves earlier than we ever have before. In this video we're making some adjustments to our little stone cottage to help us get through the summer, and we show you some of our strategies for protecting our garden and our more vulnerable plants from the intense sun. Working in this heat is really a challenge, but somehow we managed to tick quite a lot of things off our to-do list this week, and hopefully we're in a better position for the long hot months ahead. Hope you enjoy the video.
Something that's not really working quite as well as I'd hoped is the exudation tape. There's a couple of issues. Firstly, it just seems to have lots of tiny little holes in it. Well, it's got a couple of bigger holes, which I suspect the boars did when they came through. But it's also got, even in some new lines that I put in since then, it's got like tiny little holes that are just like sprinkling water. And I don't really know if it's meant to do that or if that's like some damage or how it got damaged, but it feels like that's not supposed to happen. Having said that though, on those lines where it's like sprinkling out of tiny little holes, it's actually working a lot better because there are other lines where it's just not really exuding that much. Like I have the valve open for hours and like some of the lines barely get wet. I suspect what's happening is that in some lines, because we have really hard, high mineral content water, the exudation tape is just getting like clogged up. The micropores are just getting clogged up with sediment. Well, not sediment, you know, like salts, minerals. So I'm gonna go rogue. I've got a knife and a pin and I'm gonna see if I can turn some of these exudation lines more into like micro aspersion lines. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't matter. I'll put a sprinkler in here instead because the sprinklers are working great in the other area, so I just thought I would try it before I rip it all out. Whoa. So I'm in our fruit cage right now and we have recently been raising some baby chicks in here. It was just a convenient place to put them where they were completely safe and away from the pond and the other chickens and the ducks in the main enclosure until they were a bit bigger. Anyway, they're fully integrated now with the other chickens and they have done an amazing job of weeding in here. I'm sure they've had a good nibble of the berry bushes as well, but they were mostly established, so they haven't really suffered. Yeah, it's actually been really good for the chicks in here, but now they're gone, I'm going to give all the berry bushes some compost and a new layer of mulch because all of that has completely disappeared, and then give everything a really good water in here. This is the tayberry, I think, and yeah, it's enormous. I think I need to like tie this up against the wall as well. Yeah, they've definitely had a good nibble on these. Look, this poor gooseberry has lost all of its lower leaves, but luckily it was tall enough to survive. I actually can't remember what this one was, but yeah, this one looks like it needs some compost and some water. Blackberry is doing well. I feel like this probably needs a prune, but I don't really know much about pruning berry bushes, so I'll have to look into that. Okay, the next thing I need to mulch is the sweet potatoes, which I just didn't have time to mulch when I first planted them, so I'm going to do that now.
Mulch is an absolutely essential component of our gardening strategy in the summer months. Covering the bare soil with anything, cardboard, straw, hay, wood chip, leaves, pine needles, sheep's wool, almond shells or even dog fur helps reduce evaporation and protect the soil from the harsh rays of the sun. Different materials have different pros and cons, and I have generally used old hay or straw for mulching because this is a relatively cheap and readily available option, and it's quick and easy to put down, especially in large areas like the sweet potatoes. However, this year I've also been using cane chippings too on some of my smaller beds. I've been really happy with how these beds are going so far, and I do love that the chippings are totally free, organic and produced on site, but I simply haven't got enough time to chip enough material to cover everything, so in many places it's still more convenient to use old straw. Meanwhile, it was not just the garden that needed keeping cool, but our little stone cottage could also do with some additional protection from the heat. We don't have air conditioning here off-grid. It is possible, but we just don't have it, but somehow we manage. This stone messier is built facing due south as is traditional. This orientation gives the best thermal regulation across the whole year, allowing the sun to naturally heat the house in winter, whilst the small window openings help keep the rooms cooler in the summer. The thermal mass of the thick stone walls helps to equalize temperatures across the day and night cycle, and on the whole we are actually very comfortable here most days of the year. However, heat waves we normally don't see until late summer have been hitting us as early as June this year. So we have many sweltering nights ahead of us, and here we are upgrading our shutters. Keeping out the sunlight before it hits the glass of the windows is really the key to keeping a room cooler during the day, so we invested in these better quality blinds to hang outside our upstairs and downstairs window.
Don't climb on it.
Santi can inspect that later. Hanging on the top. Think Sanji's going to be happy?
Yeah, I just hope he doesn't open it.
In the house, yeah.
After figuring out how to use our new extra tall ladder, we were able to add a screen to the bedroom window too, which didn't have any kind of blind in place previously. After having the screen installed for a few days, I can tell you that it has made a difference. It's still pretty warm up here because it is basically an attic, but by ventilating early in the morning and at night we do get by. When we had the old roof replaced a few years ago, we did add some extra insulation too, which previously we didn't have, and that must be helping a bit as well. And we actually also use floor beds now, and I think that also makes a difference.
Yeah, I'm thinking we should rebuild the pergola with stronger wood. Like the wood from this kit is actually quite rubbish. Like you can see that it's all bent and like it's not strong enough to hold the roof.
Yeah, we think we do want to get a roof back on here because it was really good capturing the water at the back. We've got the guttering up and it's a good area, and that helps with the shade as well. But yeah, I think we're thinking rebuild completely. But anyway, in the meantime, the kiwis are looking a little bit stressed because when they had the roof, they had the shade. So we're going to see what we can do just for now, just to give them a little bit of protection. Also got a little bit of organic fertiliser for the kiwis because obviously being in pots. Alright, I just want to get... I'm going to try and staple this like up there. Oh, very hot. I find it funny how the kiwis are meant to be the shade and now we're making shade for the shade.
With the west side of the terrace protected, I added some more shade material to the east side too. This is less important because it's the afternoon sun hitting from the west which really does the most damage, but it does keep the sun out of our eyes if we're having our morning coffee up on the terrace. After adding the shade and giving everything a bit of a clean and a tidy up, the terrace was actually starting to become a more usable space once again.
So I just put this old blind up here that we took off the front of the house as a bit of an experiment to see what it would look like, and I actually think it looks really good. It fits perfectly across two beams. That's just a coincidence, but two more of those would cover the whole roof. Well, not the back bit, but we might be alright. We'll have to see what it's like at midday when the sun is high in the sky. But yeah, I just tied it on at a few points with its own string that it came with, which was great. It's really easy to take up and down because I can do it from underneath, just standing on a chair. It looks nice, it's nice and shady. As much as we wanted like a solid roof up here just to, you know, protect the sofa and stuff and just keep this area a little bit cleaner and tidier, I think bearing in mind how easy it is to get this stuff up and down if it's super windy and we need to take it down for some reason, maybe this is the solution. I think maybe we just leave this up here and see how it does in the wind and how it holds up, and then maybe once we're happy we can get some more going across here. Right, our next job is to give a little bit of shade to this poor little pear tree. I think it'll be fine. Planted it a bit too late in the year, but I think with a little bit of shade it'll be alright.
It's not pretty, but this shade cloth will make a huge difference to this little tree, and maybe next year it will be strong enough to withstand the sun by itself. When you come from a more northern latitude like me, where sunlight always seems to be lacking, it's hard to believe you can actually have too much of it, but it turns out you can, and it's really amazing how helpful shade is in the Mediterranean garden. For example, I tried for years to grow raspberries here and other berries, and I could just never get anything established until I put the shade material up on the side of the fruit cage, and since then everything has been absolutely thriving in here. Last year I grew romaine lettuces in here without them bolting all the way through June, which was quite an achievement, and if I could I would just have the whole garden shaded from above all summer. I don't have the budget or the time right now to build that kind of infrastructure, but what I can do is provide temporary shade on any of the plants that seem to be particularly struggling.
If there's one job that I really dislike on the farm, it is carrying watering cans to trees. I can't imagine anyone really likes that job, but yeah, especially since It's something you tend to have to do when it's really hot, which makes it even less enjoyable. And we've almost eliminated that job by putting in lots of taps at convenient points, hooking up lots of hose pipes. It's always much easier just to open a tap and let a hose pipe run onto a tree for a while. But what I really want to be doing, especially for young trees, is just having some sort of like irrigation line in that goes to all of them. And the main area where we haven't really got anything convenient is the row of cypresses and a few other fruit trees that are along here in this little corridor. We're next to the chicken food forest there. We've got this little corridor and we are growing cypresses, a couple of pears, a couple of plums along this line. I would love to get loads more cypresses in, have them more densely planted, but that really needs like continuous irrigation because they're really small when you buy them. So yeah, today's job is to try and put an irrigation line in along here, and I kind of want to have it aerial. So I've got these posts, I'm going to put those in and use it to like suspend the line, and hopefully the line will like sprinkle down onto the trees, and then I can just put in a dripper, an emitter every place where I have a tree. I'm really enjoying like the aerial irrigation for keeping the temperature cooler around the trees. I think it really helps them, and having the line elevated also means that I don't have to worry about it when I'm strimming. It's one less thing to move out of the way, and being elevated, like the emitters won't get full of mud. That's the theory. Anyway, I'm just going to connect to the main pipe and see what happens. I actually think that's just not the right piece. Yeah, that's not the right piece that I put in there. I also need to put a different valve for the sprinklers because they're on the same, coming off the same line. Ooh, too hot for this. Yeah, probably need to go to the co-op, unfortunately, and buy a missing piece. Right, I've got a good selection of parts now. I should have everything I need and more to do this in multiple different ways, so I can figure out the best way to do it. But the first thing I'm going to do is switch a valve from one place to another so that I can have the sprinklers closed and then the rest of the irrigation open. Alright, that section of pipe had a hole in it. I'm just going to use this hole. I'm just going to fix it and use it to take some more 60mm pipe off in the other direction, which I was thinking of doing anyway. Yeah, it's just a waste of pipe otherwise. And I do have more, but I think it's all got little holes in it because I think I was using it to irrigate some trees in the first place. Too big. I hope when Mauro becomes a plumber he learns how to sort this sort of situation out. Alright, I'm just going to close that off for now. Obviously the pressure will be less when there's lots of emitters on the line. Okay, I'm just going to turn it off.
After adding the valve I forgot to add and fixing the leak on one of the T-pieces, it was time to try again to get my first emitter in.
Right, I'm going to go give that a go. Hopefully this is the last time I have to open that valve this evening. And I'm not going to put any more emitters in until I get the posts in place that are going to support them, because I want to make sure they're in the perfect position for each tree. But just to see how it works. Okay, we're looking leak free there. And oh, I didn't test this one. Leak free there, just getting sprinkled. Leak free here. You can see I've just actually changed how I'm going into this 60mm pipe, and instead of coming off the 32mm pipe with one of these pieces, which as you can see there, it's actually narrower than 16, so rather than like reducing down to something less than 16, I've just gone this way, which goes down into 25 and then directly into 16, never getting any narrower. I don't know if it makes a big difference, but I just thought I could try it this way just to minimize as much resistance as possible, because this 16mm pipe, I want it to go all the way down there and potentially all the way around the chicken food forest. So yeah, it's going to go a long way, and it'll be good if it carries as much pressure as possible. Anyway, let's turn this on. Why are you not sprinkling? Why are you not dripping? Why are you not dripping? Okay, there we go. Okay, well, there we go. We shall see tomorrow.
The next morning, with Mauro's help, we got to work on the posts to support the pipe off the ground.
So I'll just tell you where to hammer these in, and then you hammer them in. When it's all like straight, it should be fine.
Okay.
Maybe I need another post here to start with. Okay, posts are all in, the pipe is attached, time to get some of these emitters in. I'm just going to put a few here and there, not all of them, and just see what the pressure's like when we have more than one. Okay, moment of truth. That's our first one from yesterday. It's like very wide. Kind of want it less wide. Anyway, that's one. There's our next one. That's also looking pretty good. And number 3 over here. Okay.
After adding the rest of the 12 emitters, I tested the pressure again and it was all looking good. I'm pleased with this system and I'm happy that we have another area we can irrigate without having to carry heavy watering cans.
So this is how the garden is looking a week or so after punching the holes in the exudation tape. I need to string up all these tomatoes. Everything is finally growing really nicely. We're getting lots of veggies out of here. Everything is looking good. We've got some enormous courgette plants. The sweet corn is looking good. We should be starting to get some melons soon. We've got aubergines forming. There they are. The only thing I have to be careful of is as the plants grow, sometimes they kind of, like a massive leaf will just be in the way of the of the sprinkler, of the hole that I made, and all the water just gets directed down into the same spot. As is happening here, this little pepper plant is just in the way. That's better. So yeah, I don't know, it's not an ideal system. Bindweed everywhere. Some holes maybe need to be bigger. Yeah, I don't know, it's not an ideal system, but I think it's good to try it. Next year I will probably just put a sprinkler in this area because that just works a lot better, but it's fine.
With the house and garden a bit more protected, we knew that the next couple of months would be easier. However, we still have quite a few pressing issues that we're trying to solve over the next few weeks, so please subscribe if you haven't already to follow the progress and support our channel. Thank you so much for watching this video and we'll see you in the next one.